Imagine for a moment that everything that challenges you, your fears, insecurities, and deep doubts, aren't just obstacles to overcome, but signs. Secret maps pointing to who you truly are, and more than that, to what you came here to do in this life. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. Here, each video is an invitation to self-knowledge and reconnection with your essence. And at the end of this video, I'll share a special reflective invitation. So stay with me until the end. What if the aspects of yourself that you try to hide, ignore, or judge actually hold the key to your true path? What you've been taught to fear might actually hold your most authentic light. Today we're diving into one of the most transformative ideas in depth psychology, the shadow, as understood by Carl Jung. It's a theory that goes beyond the intellect. It touches the spirit, resonates in the body, and awakens the soul. But this isn't an invitation to understand theories. It's an invitation to understand yourself. Because by the end of this journey, you might not only understand your shadow, but find within it the truest trace of your purpose. Carl Jung believed that the shadow is made up of everything we reject in ourselves. Traits, desires, impulses that at some point we learn to view as unacceptable. Yet paradoxically, it's precisely there that our greatest treasures lie hidden. How often have you had a strong reaction to someone else's behavior? Many times, what irritates us in others is a mirror of what we haven't yet acknowledged in ourselves. As Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The shadow isn't just darkness, it's raw energy, creative potential, repressed passions. It's what was silenced by shame, fear, or the need to be accepted. But when it stays hidden, it doesn't disappear. It expresses itself in distorted ways. Jung called the process of integrating the shadow individuation, a journey toward wholeness, recognizing who we are with both light and darkness, without dividing the soul into fragments. This path isn't easy. It requires courage. It requires silence, an honest look within. But that's where true freedom begins. Because when we stop running from the shadow, we stop running from ourselves. All great heroes in mythology face some form of shadow. Hercules battling his inner monsters. Luke Skywalker confronting the dark side within. These myths speak of all of us. They are archetypes of the human soul. The shadow reveals itself in recurring dreams, disproportionate reactions, unexplained attractions. It speaks through our most intense emotions and repressed impulses. And when we learn to listen, it becomes our guide. Shadow work begins with awareness, observing what triggers anger, fear, or envy in us. Acceptance. It's not about acting on these impulses, but recognizing them as part of a whole. Understanding what they're trying to tell us. Imagine the relief of no longer fighting who you are, the peace that comes from fully accepting yourself, with humanity, with depth, with truth. Integrating the shadow brings practical fruits, healthier relationships, freer creative expression, and a sense of direction that comes from within. What you feared most in yourself may be exactly what the world most needs you to offer. And here lies the deepest point of all. When you embrace your shadow, you contribute to collective healing. Because an integrated person no longer needs to project their pain onto others. They understand. They embrace. They inspire. Your purpose may be hidden in what you've most rejected. Your mission may not be to overcome the shadow, but to make it an ally. What you've most hidden could be what brings you closest to who you were meant to be. Now we enter the most intimate part of this journey, the conscious practice of shadow integration. This is a territory that requires presence, sensitivity, and a heart willing to listen without judgment. It all begins with self-observation. The next time something triggers you intensely, anger, envy, repulsion, or even excessive admiration, ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to show me about myself? Often what we see in others reflects what we haven't yet accepted in ourselves. The shadow expresses itself subtly. Sometimes it arises when we criticize someone for being too free, when we ourselves fear being judged. Other times, it appears in dreams through symbols, images, or stories that disturb or fascinate us. A powerful tool is the shadow journal. Set aside a few minutes daily to write about emotionally charged moments. Write freely, without filters. This is your safe space. Another deep practice is dialogue with the shadow. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and imagine yourself in front of the part of you that you usually ignore. Give it a name, a shape, a voice. Ask, "What do you want to tell me?" You might be surprised by the answers that arise. It's important to remember, embracing the shadow doesn't mean acting on destructive impulses. It means recognizing that even our most difficult reactions have a source, a function, a request to be heard. Denying this perpetuates pain. Embracing it brings freedom. When you commit to this inner work, something within begins to reorganize. The previously separated parts start to communicate. The soul finds wholeness. And you begin to live not as someone who conforms, but as someone who reveals. This integration reverberates throughout life, in the choices you make, the words you speak, the silences you honor. Living in harmony with your shadow is to walk with more ease and more truth. If this content awakened something in you, write the word reconnection in the comments. It symbolizes the reunion with what has long been denied, but now can be embraced with maturity and awareness. Your sharing can create space for others to begin their healing process. Now that we understand how the shadow acts in our inner life, it's time to observe how it manifests in our relationships. Yes, it doesn't stay confined to what we feel or think. It gets projected onto the people we love, clash with, or even avoid. Carl Jung said that everything that bothers us in others is a clue to what we haven't yet accepted in ourselves. This means that many interpersonal conflicts aren't just about the other. They are invitations to self-knowledge. Have you ever felt repulsed by someone overly vain? Or jealous of someone spontaneous and free? Often these people reflect traits you also have but don't allow yourself to express. The other becomes a mirror, and discomfort is the reflection. This projection is one of the unconscious's most common mechanisms. Instead of welcoming the shadow, we project its image onto those around us. This can generate judgment, hurt, resentment, but also a starting point for healing. The path of empathy begins within. When we embrace our own contradictions, it becomes easier to understand those of others. When we recognize our pain, we make room to listen to others without judgment. Conscious relationships are born from this willingness to look within. When two people meet not only with their qualities but also with acknowledged shadows, connection deepens. Respect arises. Listening expands. Mutual care is nurtured. Integrating the shadow in relationships also protects us from repeating patterns. How often have you attracted similar partners or faced the same conflicts in different friendships? These cycles repeat until the shadow's lesson is embraced. Practice self-inquiry in moments of conflict. Ask yourself, what is this situation revealing about me? What part of me is being touched here? What do I need to look at with more honesty? You'll begin to see that many of the other's wounds speak to your own. That behind every behavior lies a need, a story, a vulnerability. This awareness doesn't justify harmful actions, but fosters compassion and often healing. When we become intimate with our shadow, we are no longer ruled by it. We move with more awareness, more lightness, and less reactivity. And that changes everything. Friendships, partnerships, family ties. We become more truthful. And truth, although sometimes uncomfortable, always deepens intimacy. If this section resonated with you, share the word mirror in the comments, because that's what conscious relationships become. Reflections of our inner journey. Your sharing may inspire others to look at themselves with more kindness. We have arrived at the deepest point of this journey. Integrating the shadow is not merely a personal act, but a gesture with collective impact. When you commit to your own healing, you touch a much greater dimension than you might imagine. Carl Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming whole, plays an essential role in the evolution of humanity. Why? Because the collective unconscious, This shared field we all tap into as human beings is nourished by each individual who becomes more self-aware. The personal shadow, when ignored, tends to be projected into the world as intolerance, violence, judgment, or fanaticism. But when welcomed, it transforms into empathy, creativity, and compassionate action. Think of people who deeply inspire you. Leaders, artists, spiritual guides. Many of them have walked intense paths through their own shadows. Not because they were perfect, but because they learned to transform pain into wisdom, crisis into purpose, and darkness into light. This is not a privilege of a few. It is available to anyone who chooses to walk courageously inward. Your shadow has something to offer the world. Perhaps your pain of rejection can become compassion for others. Maybe your shyness holds a delicate talent for listening. Maybe your anger carries a passion for justice that can change lives. Imagine a world where each person recognizes and integrates their shadow. A world with less projection and more dialogue, with less fear and more listening, with fewer masks and more truth. That world begins within, in each of us. You are not alone on this path. Every step you take toward wholeness silently echoes in the collective field. Healing inspires healing. Truth awakens truth. Light ignites light. And at the end of this journey, I leave you with an invitation that is also a seed. Continue on this path. Return to this video whenever you need to remember your courage. Share it with those who also need a loving gaze toward themselves. If this content touched you deeply, write the word transformation in the comments. It symbolizes what happens when we accept the shadow as part of our essence. Your presence here matters. Thank you for walking with me. May this video be a mirror, a map, and an embrace. And may you move forward with more clarity, more courage, and more compassion for yourself and for others. See you in our next meeting. Until then, care for yourself as someone cares for something sacred, because you are